Hi there, guys. So we have the news today that some Labour MPs are looking to block the government's proposed changes to PIP and to universal credit. Before I get into the story, I'd be really grateful if you could like and subscribe. It just helps me to grow the channel, so thanks a lot. So let's get into this story then. So it says more than 100 Labour MPs are supporting a fresh effort to block the government's planned changes to the benefit system. The MPs have signed an amendment that would give them an opportunity to vote on a proposal to reject the welfare reform bill in its entirety. Dozens of Labour MPs have expressed concerns about the plans to cut disability and sickness-related benefit payments to save £5 billion a year by 2030. And then in terms of the rationale behind why they're going to take this stance, it says one of the main coordinators behind the amendment, who did not wish to be named, told the BBC the government's U-turn on cutting winter fuel payments had emboldened many of those who have signed the amendment. They said MPs all voted for the winter fuel cuts and have taken so much grief in our constituencies. So colleagues think, why should I take that on again? Yeah, so I'm in total agreement with these mostly backbench MPs. This is not a policy that Labour should even be thinking about, let alone proposing as legislation. And I think in terms of the Labour Party's recent history, my personal view is that this is one of the worst unforced errors from the Labour Party since the Iraq War. Now, you might think that's a ridiculous thing to say or hyperbole, but I think this goes to the heart of what politics is about. It's essentially about who do you stand with and what do you stand for. The Iraq War was a disaster. It was an example of neocolonialism, and it was proven to be one of the worst foreign policy disasters in this country's history. And at the time, if you remember, they ignored all the warnings and they got it catastrophically wrong. And I think this is similar, but in terms of domestic policy. Every single person or organisation who knows anything about anything is warning the government not to do this, telling them clearly why it's wrong and what the effect of this will be down the road, but they're simply not listening. And I think that tells us something important, about the Labour Party itself, but also our wider politics in 2025. I think firstly, it tells us very clearly that the people in charge, whether that's Labour, Tory, or even Lib Dem, they don't necessarily have any underlying principles or beliefs and really no clue. The Labour Party are claiming that this is essential because they need to get the welfare bill down and that it's unsustainable in its current form. But their own initial assessment of the impact of this policy shows that it's going to push 250,000 more people into poverty. And we already know from the austerity years that that's a false economy, because when people are in poverty, when people don't have their needs met at an early stage, what tends to happen is that they need more expensive help and support at a later date. So all this is going to do is put added pressure on the NHS, in years to come, because essentially that's the public service of last resort in this country. That's where people go when they haven't had their needs met. And then secondly, it also tells us that the Labour Party are weak, which is something that we already knew. So, rather than take tough choices on tax to support an ageing and sicker population, for example, implementing a wealth tax or something similar, they just take the easy road which is removing financial support from the most vulnerable in society. However, as they are weak, as proven by the winter fuel payment debacle, that gives us an opportunity as well. So as with the winter fuel payments, if there's enough noise and enough pushback, then they will buckle on it. And that's been proven now. So I think in terms of how we can fight back, even if this abomination of a bill does make it through Parliament, the reality is that that's not going to be the end of it. If enough pressure is exerted on them, they're likely to buckle. So if you've got a Labour MP, I'd strongly encourage you to get in touch with them, send them a message now, tell them you're opposed to it, and then also check how they vote next week and then get in touch with them about that as well at the time. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. So thanks a lot. See you later.